I've been asked to talk about the relationship between creative economy and artistic interventions, and I gladly do so because both of these concepts have been central to my research interests in the recent years. First, I believe that the creative economy is much bigger than the sector of the cultural and creative industries, whatever definition of that sector you might prefer. The creative economy indicates a whole new way of doing business and a new way of consuming goods. To put it into the tiniest of nutshells, in the creative economy, the new is normal. That's why the creative economy is driven by chance, not by cause. The creative economy is what comes after the productive economy. Now I have to justify my claims. The creative economy made its appearance on the academic scene and soon after on the policy scene as a synonym for the creative industries. The UNCTAD report of 2008 is the best representative of that usage. Here, creative economy is the name of a sector in which production has something in common in all its branches, and that is the necessity of so-called creative acts in the process of making a movie, an advertising campaign, or a video game. The conventional grouping encompasses roughly a dozen branches. UNCTAD has 9, DCMS has 11, it just depends, from cultural heritage to software publishing. The creative acts are needed because the products in these branches change constantly. It happens continuously in branches like book publishing or architecture, or it happens seasonally, as in fashion, with seasons for some products now down to 3 weeks. Apparently, the consumers do not seek a constant quality that gives them utility, they rather seek new stimulation, a minimal element of surprise. The consumers seek new experiences. They have only very general expectations which of the experience products offered will actually give them the desired thrill or joy. And nobody knows is a standing rule in the movie industry. It holds in the other creative industries as well. Success is determined by chance and by the right circumstances, not only by an optimal combination of product factors. Uncertainty plays a positive role as a welcome opportunity to reach the unexpected, rather than the traditional negative role as the unavoidable risk of failure. Now, this sector's pattern of constant newness has, since a few decades, invaded the rest of the economy. There is not a single sector left, be it agriculture or manufacturing, in which companies could be content with continuing their production unchanged or with only marginal efficiency improvements. The paradigmatic organizational form is not assembly on the conveyor belt in a stable matrix organization, but the design of new solutions in ever-changing projects. In consequence, creative acts happen everywhere. They are even strategically developed and implemented. Luc Boltanski and Yves Chapelot have demonstrated this paradigmatic shift impressively in their book on the new spirit of capitalism. To sum up the argument, the creative economy is driven by two developments. First, an increase in the share of products that are characterized by some degree of newness, and this turns the creative industries, together with information technology, into the core sector of the post-Fordist economy. And secondly, an increase of creative action in the operations of all commercial companies and other organizations, not only to design product innovations, but also to come up with new ideas in the interaction and communication of the organizations. This development boosts revenues and it boosts employee motivation and job satisfaction. To be sure, the creative economy will not substitute the productive economy. Just like the productive economy has integrated the primary economy, the process is again one of integration and added complexity. There is, however, a puzzling problem in trying to support the development from the productive to the creative economy. How do you search for the new? This question was first posed by Plato in the Meno dialogue and is today better known as the innovation paradox. If you know what you're looking for, why search? And if you don't know what you're looking for, is there any point in searching? In other words, traditional, rational, causal strategies cannot reach the new because the new is defined as that which does not follow logically, coherently, from whatever there was before. The new contains an element of surprise, of being overwhelmed, of being dependent on circumstances and timing. That is why accounts of successful novelties and innovations frequently refer to notions like chance, coincidence, and serendipity. And in case you don't know what serendipity is, here's the best definition I know. It's like looking for the needle in the haystack and coming out with the farmer's daughter. Now, the dependence on chance rather than cause is the fundamental reason why artistic interventions will be so important in the creative economy. Chance, coincidence, accident, the terms describe one and the same basic pattern of events. One logical pattern that proceeds according to its own rules, the progress of a car as a matter of course, is interrupted by another logical pattern, by the child crossing the street. Or exam preparations are interrupted by the visit of an old friend. Or writing an essay is interrupted by a walk to the bathroom. Many chance events are undesirable, and we have found ways to avoid them or make them improbable. But some are highly desirable and intentionally provoked. Outdoor experiences serve the purpose, or travels to other cultural regions or scenes, or the learning of skills and practices that diverge from someone's major occupation. The interruption is experienced as stimulating because new phenomena are discovered and new interpretations of old phenomena are found to be inspiring. Persons who expect a high rate of creative action from themselves do indeed invent and adapt such interruption routines in order to foster inspiration. The interruptions help them to think out of the box, to surprise themselves and their peers. And these strategies make up the charm and the success of the so-called bohemian lifestyle. They constitute the condition of tolerance, which Richard Florida has correctly identified as an essential for the creative class. A class which, in the creative economy, encompasses everyone in the workshop as well as in the recreational venues. Now, is there an equivalent to these individual strategies to provoke the chance of newness on the level of organizations? I posed myself that question 5 years ago, and I can now say that our research has shown that such a set of strategies is currently in the process of realization. I have to apologize that I will simplify and idealize in order to sketch the bare outlines of this type of approach. The interruption that triggers the new in organizations is formalized as intervention. In the course of the intervention, persons, practices, and products from another world of logic enter the world of the organization's logic. The intervention might last for a few hours or for months. It might be singular, or it might be reoccurring. It might imply that employees leave the organization's location together, or persons are hosted whose actions and interactions follow an external logic. To a certain degree, conventional consulting projects fall under the definition of interventions. The client firm expects to find solutions which they are unable to search for in their own logic. The logic of the consulting company, often mystified as highly unique in its self-description, is still a commercial logic, therefore not so distant from that of its clients. And yet already that cognitive distance is able to eliminate ineffective routines and establish new working relationships. In looking for another logic that promises more creative clash, the world of the arts is the prime candidate. This world of worth shares many characteristics with the sciences. It consists essentially of information. Motivation is driven by the search for new information, which is new discovery or invention in the case of science, and new creation of a work in the case of the arts. However, the logic of the sciences is interested in reducing the number of possible continuations. It seeks the true relationship, the best technical solution. The logic of the arts, instead, encourages an increase in the number of variation. In order to be perceived as variations of artworks, artistic discourses have to maintain a rigorous standard of quality in achieving the works, be they rap songs, sculptures, or poems. Friedrich Nietzsche found a wonderful expression for this very peculiar mode of action and mode of observation by the audience. He spoke, in the case of the classical Greek poets, of dancing in the chains of self-imposed constraints. And I quote, "To make it hard for oneself and then spread the deceit of easiness over it. That is the feat of art," he says, Kunststück, which they want to show us. In turning to the logic of the arts, this sort of self-serving, authentic satisfaction can be set up to clash with the functional satisfaction of goal attainment that characterizes rational behavior in organizations. Now, let us assume that an intervention using persons, practices, or products from the role of the arts is set up. A conductor who rehearses a musical performance with the partners of a consulting firm might surprise them with the rigor of quality expected from the impromptu choir. Or a choreographer in a rock wool company might surprise the forklift drivers with appreciation for their own skills in making their forklift machines dance. The key question is, what happens with the persons in the interspace of that intervention? Well, what we know is that the artistic impact affects them through various sensory channels. The consultants and the forklift drivers feel stimulated in unexpected ways because the clash of the two logics leads to dissonances. For the participants, their experience takes place on an emotional level, which is often difficult to put into words. And from that level flows the creative energy of a successful artistic intervention. The energy is of a physical as well as of a mental nature. It is often felt as an individual internal sensation of vigor, of enjoying the adventure of tackling new tasks. It is also felt as a collective sensation of vigor, of increased attention to the contribution of others, an increased ability to interpret them as new variations that lead to new practices. But that sensation of creative energy does not last forever. It dissipates over time as the experience of the artistic intervention recedes in memory. In some interventions, the positive energy does not emerge at all. It is immediately forgotten, or even worse, leaves negative traces. There is still much to be learned about the patterns and procedures of artistic interventions that work reliably. Part of that learning is fostered by the specialized intermediaries for artistic interventions, the actual producers of that service, who are about to establish themselves. And we have some of them among us. Interventions are hardly scalable because of the need to tailor them to unique situations. But the knowledge about actors in both the worlds of commerce and art is scalable, and so are training facilities. Intermediaries also play a role in initiating intervention projects because they understand both logics. They bridge gaps of trust, and they allow artists to keep their edge of difference while interacting with an audience that now consists of clients, not of amateurs, in the sense of Liebhabers. Despite these challenges, artistic interventions have a splendid career ahead of them. They are uniquely suited to initiate the clashes, turbulences, and storms that provide the creative economy with its essential resource, a never-ending stream of new ideas, new constellations, and new experiences. They are bound to become a standard approach in maintaining a high creativity level in organizations. And finally, since we are in Brussels, there is a policy conclusion to all this. The ability to handle artistic interventions effectively will constitute a competitive advantage in the global creative economy. Thank you very much.